this is Russ. Yeah. Second part of my ride. So yesterday we were talking about whether I should put codes on my description of my videos of different bikes from different companies, even though I've never reviewed those bikes. Let me know what you think about that. It's an affiliate link essentially, and I've noticed a number of YouTubers do that. They may not have reviewed that bike, but you know, they were able to sign up for an affiliate code. I guess people look at it as if you're gonna buy that bike anyways and you want to support that YouTuber, the easiest way to do it is to click on the code and or click on their link in the description, and then they get $50 or $100 or whatever the things give. You still get your discounts anyways. Either way, you know, you're not losing out. But by doing that, that gives a little bit of money to the YouTuber. Sometimes they don't give them money. Sometimes they just gives that YouTuber credit. So what ends up happening is they build up enough credit, they can buy a bike, and then after they buy the bike, they can either keep it or sell it. So let me know if you guys are interested in that or not. I mentioned it right at the tail end of the last video, but I figured I'd mention it again so more people can see it and hear it, in case you decide that's something I should do or not. Okay. I've been holding off on it because I kind of felt it was a little funny to put a link to something that I haven't reviewed, but others have said, does it really matter? Because if somebody has their heart set on that bike anyways, they're going to buy it regardless, right? So, all right, we're on a major street here. Let me decide where we're going here. Okay, let's go on the major street here once these cars are done. Now there's a sidewalk here right next to me. I'm not doing that because I know we're not allowed. They'd rather have us killed on the street, so let's stay on the street. Now there's two lanes on here, so obviously the cars behind me can move to the next lane and pass. Not all cars do that. If you take a third of the lane, they got no choice but to do that. They hate it, but keeps you safe. So now here, I needed to take a right turn, waving to the police. I needed to take a right turn, and I see the police officers always wave back to me. They actually do. The first car was, I think, a police assistant. He did not wave back. Second car was an actual police car. They waved back. They always wave back to you if you wave to them. I've noticed that. That's just something. That's something I did when I worked in law enforcement. You know, if I'm riding in, well, we'd have crime scene vans. They know it's me, all right? And we'd wave at each other. It's just like any other professional courtesy. You pass another person who works with you, you wave to them, right? But I've always maintained that, even though I don't work in law enforcement anymore. They don't have any clue that I'm in law enforcement anymore. I still wave to them, and they wave back. So today, being a continuation of the ride from yesterday, as you know, it had rained for the last couple of days, and so the ground is all wet. Yesterday, being as hot as it was like in the upper 80s. The humidity was unbearable, really, to be outside. Today, it's cooled down. It's, I believe, in the 70s, low 70s maybe. And you've got a nice cool breeze. This is actually a good time to ride, but I'm not going too far from places. I'm hanging around the general areas that we typically ride at, just so that in case this thing starts to downpour again, I'm not caught too far out from the general area. But that's been the story of our rides lately. It's just been riding the streets, taking it easy and just talking. I figured this is better to do this than it is to stay inside and just do a talking head video. A talking head video is where you're just talking on camera, and then you put a couple of graphics up here and there. That's no fun. More fun to be out and ride around and see the neighborhoods. Even if it is the neighborhoods we always see and do, it's better to be outside than not. That's how I see it. So anyways, I was looking at various footage, test footages that I've done. I was looking at this, well, what if I bought a second GoPro camera, mounted it on the bike? What would it look like? So I kind of faked it by shaking the camera around while riding, fake riding. And yeah, it's kind of bumpy. I will tell you that the camera mounted on your chest is really the best way to do it. You don't get to see me, but you do see everything going forward. But the reason I think is the best way is because the stabilization is better. The view is better, the angle of view is better. And when you hit a bump and bounce around, you don't notice it as much because of the GoPro stabilization. So overall, mounting the camera directly on the bike itself has the least amount of shock absorbing. If you got it on your body, or if you're holding the camera or something, you kind of absorb some of that shock, and so the camera doesn't look so bouncy. But hard mounted onto the camera, yeah, it's gonna be bouncy. It's gonna be not good. I think one or two of you asked me if I'd ever tried recording with my cell phone. Now, we did that with the Xnito video, where the cell phone was mounted on here and facing me. Well, the angle is not the greatest because you're like looking up my nose. But if you watch it, there's some bounciness that happens whenever you hit a bump, because it is hard mounted to the handlebar, and it doesn't have stabilization, not like a GoPro. So the angle of view is not good. If you wanted to see good video of me while I was riding, the camera would have to be a lot higher. Okay, it'd have to be like face level height. Then you'd see the camera pick up the headlight of the helmet and all that stuff. But it's too low. You can't really see it that well. All you can do is you see me, but you really don't see the helmet's light. That's where the talking head video, where I was able to kind of show you the front and rear lights that way, that actually looked better than when it was actually on me, because my camera angle wasn't the greatest. Yeah, many people have expressed to me riding on the streets, it's not something they would like to do. And you see more and more I'm actually on the street. But these are not the same kind of streets that are super bad. I tend to avoid those really bad streets. All right. These streets, I think cars are doing, what's the speed limit here? It says 25 miles an hour. Yeah, they're like 25, 30 mile an hour streets. I don't have any problems at all being on these type of streets. The 40, 45 mile an hour streets, that's another story. Even worse, single lane 40, 45 mile an hour streets. That would be bad. I don't want to be on that. There's areas around that I could go to. If I was willing to ride on those streets, we would get to a lot more other places, but I'm not willing to go on those streets. I'm still waiting for, a folding bike of my own. My wife says, just take my bike, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to take her bike. That's her bike. I says, I'll wait for my own. I mean, I have one, but as we know, that was the bike that was damaged by FedEx. I can't even do the review of that bike, so I can't ride it. That's a folding bike. Magicycle has a folding bike coming. I think it says end of July. So we got another month or so before we see some of these things happen. And I think that repair of that other bike, we're waiting for a new fork. They told me it could be several weeks to show up to me because, you know, they have the bikes available, but they don't have something like a replacement fork available. They have to ship it from China. This is the potential problem sometimes with buying some of these bikes, is the fact that sometimes the parts aren't as available. I mean, certain parts they would have, but I guess they don't expect someone to be swapping out forks. They might be swapping out, you know, headlights or tail lights or stuff like that. They might have those things in stock, but I guess forks, they don't. I mean, really, I guess if you think about it, unless you build a bike 100% made in the United States, you got to get those parts somewhere. They're going to be coming from the country of origin, which would be, in this case, China, right? So you got to wait for them to send it to you from China. It's not just them, quite frankly. A lot of companies are like that. A lot of products, not just bikes either. You know, they don't stock every single little part. They stock the most common parts that would probably have potential breakage, but they don't expect certain parts to be broken, and that would be one of them, I guess. They had to have done a number on that fork, I'm telling you. The way that front thing is bent, where the axle would go through, you know what I'm talking about? The two little things where the axle goes through and then the nut would lock it in place, the locking mechanism would lock onto. Those two things, the two little things on the end of the fork got bent. They had to have dropped that thing something hard to get that to happen. I'm getting pelted by water coming off those trees. They had to have bent that really hard by dropping it. There's no other way you could bend it like that. And it's a nice looking bend. I mean, in the sense that it's not like cracked or anything like that. It's like bent, really bent. Yeah, we're not going down there. Let's turn here. So anyways, what have you guys been up to? Have you been able to ride your bikes? I know people have mentioned to me that the weather has been hot all across the country and have not been able to do it. And different countries have issues too sometimes. How are you guys out in the UK and Australia, Canada? How's your weathers? I like hearing from you guys, quite frankly. I think I mentioned that before. I like hearing from the people from the other countries. I like to know how far the reach of the videos go. I mean, it is still cool that people in the United States get to see me. But yeah, people in different countries being able to see it and react back to you, that's to me that's cool. Let's go this way. There's like a little bridge thing here. No, it's not a bridge, it's like an overpass or something. I think there's like running water underneath it. It's probably drainage or something. I don't know if you guys can see it on the left and the right. No outlet. Yeah, there's a lot of these no outlet things. So yeah, these last two rides have been kind of a lazy ride for me. I figured going outside was better than not going outside. So I took the opportunity. Doesn't mean I still don't gear up. It takes a while to gear up for me. I have to put on this yellow shirt. Yeah, see the yellow? I gotta put on the yellow vest. Gotta put on the GoPro, put it on the strap, and then put the strap over on my chest. Gotta get my digital audio recorder, which is sitting in here. Gotta get that turned on. Run the cable. Turn on the headlight, turn on the tail light, check the brakes, make sure the brakes are good. Pump up the tires to make sure I have my 20 pounds of pressure. on there. My tires usually drop down about 18.5 pounds. Oops. Yeah, see, look, nothing tells me that this is going to happen until you turn into it. And again, here's where you could potentially fall. You take these little U-turn things. I don't like these. These bikes don't turn very well. I mean, they turn, but I don't feel like I can stay stable on them very well. Let's go back. The potential to fall is there. Let's talk about brakes again. I know I mentioned once before about brakes, and that I would talk about it again. Let's talk about that again, all right? So here's the thing with braking, okay? One of our subscribers mentioned to me, he says, you should talk about how you brake, because I do it basically the way he does it. So when I'm braking, I will always do the right hand side first, which is our rear brake. I will use that, I'll feather it off, I'll feather it back a little bit, and then I'll use my right, let me say that again. I will start out with the right, okay, my right hand here, then I will feather the braking, then I'll take my left and do the stop, okay? You want to put even pressure overall, even pressure. When you brake, you don't want to put heavy pressure on the front brake and hardly anything on the rear brake. You go flying over the handlebars, okay? You don't want to do that. So I see my rear brake as the thing that slows me down, and then the front brake is the thing that finishes the stop. That's how I see it, okay? So I'll tend to hit the right hand, which is the rear brake, first, and then I will hit the left hand, which is the front brake, second, to do the full final stop. Even braking is important, not one more than the other. I call it feathering, where I just lightly pull on the rear brake, lightly pull it to kind of get me started in the stop, and then finalize the stop with the left, which is the front brake. So check your brakes, okay? Check the brake pads. Learn how to change out the brake pads. I know on the step-thru brakes, at least, there's a little cotter pin. You know what a cotter pin is? It's like a hairpin, if you think about what a hairpin looks like. But as you put the hairpin through, they bend one end up. That keeps that pin in place. So you have to bend that pin down, and then you can pull the pin out. And after you pull the pin out, then you can pull out the brake pads and change out the brake pads. Stick it back in there, put the cotter pin back in there, and bend it back up. Now, the problem is after you've tried to straighten out the cotter pin and try to bend it back up, you might actually break the cotter pin. That's what happened to me the very first time I went to change brakes. So I went out to my local Menards, which is a hardware store. Asked them, do you guys sell cotter pins? And of course they do. So I bought, 3 or 4 of them. For the next times I have to change my brakes. Then I have the little pin in case I break it, put a new pin in there. They were cheap too. I think I don't know what it was, something like $4 for $1, something like that. I don't know, something like that. It wasn't expensive. So yeah, get a couple of those and pick up some good brake pads the next time you change out your brakes. I don't even think using the same brake pads that you have is it's always the best. I think a lot of these companies put their cheaper brake pads inside their brakes. Get their better ones. I think the step-thru ones that I had were organic, I think it said. I don't know what the difference is, but supposedly it's better. I don't know why, but supposedly it's better. Yeah, I'm going up and down here. I don't know where I am again. I'm in the same general area. It says it's roughly in this direction. Let's see what happens, Some things start looking familiar, some things don't. I mean, like something like a bridge, like that little overpass bridge. Yeah, you would recognize that. Sometimes you see a park, you would recognize that. Other streets start looking like the same, and I don't really pay much attention to the street names a whole lot. I'm more a, have I seen this before? That's how I tend to remember things. So yeah, let me know if you ever changed your brake pads yet, and how long did it take before you had to change those brake pads. I changed out brake pads on the KBO because we were getting some squealing going on. Then it took care of it. I've changed out brake pads on my Rad Rover. Mostly the front was more worn out. More worn out than the rear. And yeah, it makes a difference. You gotta, if you have a mechanical brake, you're constantly messing with the brake all the time. There's adjustment screws on the brakes. Different brake brands have different ways of doing it, but yeah, you're always having to like readjust, because as you wear out the brake material, now it gets a little farther away, and then as the cable stretches, now it's farther away again. So yeah, you always have to mess with that. Less messing with the hydraulic brakes so far, but from what they tell me, it's less messing altogether. I mean, I took the Rad Rover and I changed out to hydraulic brake calipers, not just the pads, but I changed out the calipers to hydraulic calipers, and I've never had to mess with that ever since I changed that out. So yeah, in general, let's turn here. We got too many trucks and stuff over here. In general, you mess with mechanical brakes more than you mess with hydraulic brakes. However, hydraulic brakes, sometimes you have to bleed the line. If you get air bubbles or anything inside there, you start losing your pressure and things. Yeah, you got to bleed that line. So essentially, I don't know if you have to fully replace the oil, but you got to top it off somehow, so that those air bubbles and everything are out of there, so that when you pull on it, your pressure is still built up because of the oils being there. So far, I've not had any problems with the hydraulic brakes that I did the replacement of this Magicycle. I'm very happy with them. In fact, I hear a little bit of clickings. So it's not clicking, but it's kind of like fluttering sounds from the front, because the rotors they got holes and stuff in the rotors. I think it's kind of hitting that a little bit differently. It doesn't affect anything. It just sounds, I can hear that type of thing. I can hear that. Yeah, no big deal. If I can stop, I'm happy. And the stops have been, like I said, I can stop so fast now. It's ridiculously fast. So I feel safer on the bike now because of that. I know that I can stop quickly if I had to. I couldn't say that with even the hydraulic brake caliper only. That half system, calipers hydraulic, but cable lines still cables, wire cables. Yeah, not as powerful. Better than the mechanical fully, but not as good as the full hydraulics. So anyways, that's about it. I think I've kept you long enough. Forced you to go on the streets with me. I wish I had places I can go. I just didn't feel like it was a good idea to go too far, just in case it started to rain again. I don't think it will, but you never know. Things pop up. Anyways, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Hopefully we'll be able to go further and go to places soon. I still have the intention to go out to the Botanic Gardens. I have not taken you new guys out there yet. I've taken you on the North Branch Trail, but we headed the other direction. We headed towards Niles, and that's where we ran into the guy who recognized Russ, right? heading back, right? We went there, but we have not actually gone the other direction. And really, with the 2 unit pack power batteries that are 20 amp hours each, I'm able to make it there. I don't want to take the Magicycle until I know for a fact I have enough range to do it. Somehow I have a feeling I don't. So if that's the case, I cannot sell the Rad. Or the alternative is sell the Rad and buy yet a 3rd battery. Carry 3 batteries on this Magicycle. The weight starts getting higher and higher if you do that, but we shall see what we will do. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys next time.